Good afternoon, PeggyLee, and on behalf of Cedric Davis, the Executive Director of Energy Huntsville, I'd like to thank you for taking your time and participating in our outreach of the Huntsville community leadership and gathering lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we get going, would you mind sharing with me your position at the Alabama School of Cyber Technology? And also, we'd like to talk about what the mission of the school is.
Absolutely. So I am the executive director for the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering. You have the school, which is run by President Matt Massey, and he is responsible for ensuring that students are educated throughout the state. And then you have the foundation, which is headed by a wonderful board, as well as myself, the executive director. And our mission is to ensure that that beautiful building and campus that you see on the corner of Bradford and Wynn in Cummings Research Park is built. And our mission is to ensure that all students throughout the state of Alabama are able to receive an outstanding education in the field of cyber resiliency in the engineering life cycle. So everyone knows that throughout the nation, throughout the world, in fact, there is a shortage in the field of cyber, but especially in the field of cyber resiliency and ensuring that anything that is engineered can't be hacked. So that is the mission of President Matt Massey in this school, is to not just build up that workforce and that talent here in the state of Alabama, but for our students to then return to the state of Alabama and give us back all of their phenomenal knowledge after college. And then also to be a national model for the rest of our nation, which we're already doing with NSA, as well as the FBI and other federal conglomerates.
So this school is going to be new in Huntsville, new in Alabama. Are there any other schools in the United States like this?
Not in the 9th through 12th grade level. And so that's what makes us the national model, is high schools have never taught cyber resiliency in the engineering life cycle in the 9th through 12th grade. And what industry in Huntsville noticed is that students were leaving to go to college. They were getting this fantastic education, either within Alabama or outside of Alabama, and then they weren't necessarily staying. The next thing industry was saying is that we truly do have a shortage in this area, and especially within your DoD sectors, but now, as we've seen, commercial is also impacted by cyber resiliency. But what is happening in the world of cyber is we're trading talent. One company has the talent, and then within a couple of years, they're just exchanging that talent with another company. Industry within Huntsville said no more, and we want to start educating that talent earlier, because there really are high school students that have amazing knowledge that they can be imparting on us already. They just need a little bit of training. And so our students will be prepared after their 4 years to either go straight into the workforce, because they will have certifications under their belts when they graduate, or they can go into college, or they can do both. They can be in college and with the right mentorship also have a job.
It sounds like a great model, and we're very excited for Huntsville and also for the cyber school. And on a personal note, we're looking how we can help support you, both Energy Huntsville, but also just residents of Huntsville. So
absolutely, thank you.
Absolutely. You're my 4th interviewee, and we've taken a lot of lessons learned away from Huntsville community leaders. And one of those is, how do we train and mentor the future leaders in a post-COVID environment? So how do you think that's going to work for you? How are we going to train and mentor these young students who are, away from home in a schoolhouse, maybe a COVID environment, maybe, a hybrid environment? How's that going to work for y'all?
So we were really fortunate. Our school just had its first year of completion this past school year. And the way that the school is set up is we only allow 9th through 10th graders to come in the 9th and 12th grade year. So we're not bringing in juniors and seniors, only 9th and 12th graders. This allows us to have a student and truly mold them and truly teach them so that when they graduate, they truly are a graduate of ASCTE. And with only having a small number our first year, because remember, we're only accepting 9th through 10th to come in their first year, we were able to really minimize risks. We were the only public school in the nation to open on time and in person with no virtual option. It was really important to us, that when our students came here, it needs to be a hands-on education. And because of that, we did not give a virtual option. With that came a lot of processes that we needed to put into place to ensure that these students remained safe. And so not only did they have to stay within their own cohorts, so 9th grade was divided into 3 cohorts, the 10th grade was a smaller class, they had 1 cohort. Not only did students stay within those cohorts for the year, but masks needed to be worn at all times within the building. When going down the hallways, it was one way going down the hallway, coming up the hallway in another direction. We really did the staff and faculty of ASCTE did an amazing job ensuring that health tests were being done. Whenever there was any type of sickness, those students were tested immediately. If we had any issues, and luckily we never did, the only folks that were victims, so to speak, of COVID is when a student went home during Thanksgiving or went home over Christmas and caught COVID from a family member. And we were able to then, those students stayed where they came from rather than bringing it back to the school. So we were really fortunate. We had no outbreaks. It was amazing, but that is in large part to Matt Massey, the president of the school, and his staff and faculty really putting those processes in place. What does this look like for us moving further? Well, when we needed to do visits with industry, when we needed to have lunch and learns, when industry wanted to come in and speak to our students, a lot of that was done virtually because we understood that industry had a lot of restrictions behind them. They weren't able to travel. They weren't able to bring our kids into their building. They weren't even able to come to us and see us in many companies because those were the restrictions that were put on them, rightfully so. So what we did was we remained open ourselves and allowed for big screen viewing of some phenomenal leaders in the Huntsville area, in the Alabama area, and even in the DC area where much of this work is being done to be able to join our classrooms that way. And I think that that is going to be a wave of the future. Is we've learned through COVID that our world is a lot bigger than just in that classroom. And so we're able to really bring in that talent into the classroom in ways that we had not imagined prior to COVID.
So is there anything that you need from the Huntsville community in order to make that learning process better?
Oh my gosh. That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. So not only are we trying to build this gorgeous facility in Cummins Research Park, which is, you know, many people drive by that every day and they're just amazed at what it's going to look like and how quickly it's going up. So we are very thrilled and very excited. But to make that a reality, we do need partners in education. And those partners in education mean donors. But our donors are very special. They don't just give us money. They give us talent. They make our curriculum relevant. So what we need from the Huntsville community and the Alabama community is we need more partners in education. And if you are in a position that your company can give in order to make this school a reality, gosh, we would love that. But if you're also in a position to provide talent to our students, we want their curriculum to be relevant when they graduate. So our partners in education come in, they provide internships, they provide apprenticeships, they provide lunch and learns, and they also provide on-site visits where our students can come into their facility. One of the unusual things about this high school is that all of our students, their senior year, they don't come to class. They go to an internship. So a senior, a day in the life of a senior at ASCTE means I get up and I report to a job. And each senior will have 3 companies that they report to. So we understand that an internship can be taxing on a company as well as on a student. So we take that internship and we divide it into 3 parts. And that internship is a student will be with a DoD company for a third of the year. They will be with a commercial company for a third of the year. And then they have a pick for the rest of the third of the year where they would like to go. And so we were really encouraging our students to see all aspects of cyber resiliency, not just in a bank, not just in a DoD contracting position, but what about in utilities? What about in other avenues that maybe prior to some of the incidents that have happened to our nation, we didn't think about?
Absolutely. So in order to maintain productivity, organizations have had to transition their workforce, as you know, from work to home. Your challenge was your students were already at, you know, a away from home type environment.
Yes.
How did you enhance learning for those students in that environment?
That is a great question. And it really entailed us taking this remote and virtual learning that other schools were doing, but use that more towards the professional development and use it as a person coming and visiting the school. So on our schedules, on our calendars each year, every Friday is a lunch and learn. So every Friday, someone from industry comes in and speaks to our students. Well, some industry was able to do that. They were smaller businesses or they didn't have as many restrictions. They were able to come in person. Other companies that are much larger that had travel restrictions or their people were still working remotely, it was not okay for them to come in and do a lunch and learn face to face. But they could do a lunch and learn where we virtually had them come in. And so that's one of the lessons that we learned, that we really can be all over the planet with this school and get professional development for our kids from all over the planet. And that allowed us to do that very much. The next thing that we did was when it came to site visits, because that's another one. Once a week, our students had site visits where they were able to go to a company, be it civilian DoD or other areas here in our community that perhaps are on the arsenal. And again, many places had restrictions, others did not. Some we were able to bring our kids in, 20 at a time on a Wednesday, and they would be able to tour and get a hands-on lesson straight from industry. Others were virtual, and our kids, they come from a much different generation than you and I do. They were very apt at relating and transitioning to that virtual type of learning, not within the classroom, but for that speaker to be virtual to them and to still give them a lesson. And that was good for our lunch and learns and also good for our site visits. When it comes to internships, everyone agrees our internships need to be in person. And so we're already going through the process of that to make sure that everyone, if this should continue, what that might look like for our students.
So in normal schools, I mean, you get grades and you get report cards and you understand, how a student's progressing. And as you build this new school, how did you measure productivity of the students? I mean, it's a little bit different to say, you're an A student, you're a B student. I mean,
absolutely,
things have changed in the education system, especially in, you're doing group projects, I would imagine, and other type of things that, fosters, collaboration and things like
right.
that. So how do you measure that productivity of that student or that group of students?
That's a great question, one that President Matt Massey would love, and he will love to hear that you asked it. So he and his staff and faculty were very, very intentional about the grading system, and they put it more towards college because they knew that with our partnerships, we have partnerships with almost every university and higher learning institution here in the state, many of whom sit on our board. So Matt Massey was very intentional about making our grading system, the GPA being from, a 1.0 to a 4.5. And so there's certain gates that the kids need to meet. And if they if they have mastered what is being taught in the classroom, then they're between that 4 and 4.5. If they still need work, if they're still learning, they've got it. They're good to hook. They've got it. They're learning. They haven't mastered it, but they're almost there. Then they're 3.5. And if they're average, then they're 3. And what he didn't want to do was have this scale elevated or muddied, so to speak, because everyone gets a 4.5. The grading is pretty strict. I have a student that goes there myself, my son goes there, and we were elated that for one of the first times in his education, he was truly challenged and wasn't just getting the top mark. And it's been wonderful to see. What Matt has also done, and his staff and faculty, is he's bringing these kids to the school to learn. He's not bringing them there in order to test them to see if they can learn. He believes that every student has the ability to achieve success, and especially when they're living with you, there's no reason for them not to be able to have success. And so he's worked really hard within his daily schedule of classes. There's also tutoring. So if you're struggling in cyber, if you're struggling in English, if you're struggling in history or engineering, the teachers are there in order to help you. One of the other interesting things that about the school is that we do not have to follow the guidelines of your other public school systems. We are almost operating as an independent school, meaning we don't have to teach the same classes. So our English class, while yes, there's books to be read and there are papers to write, they're also learning how to write proposals. They're learning technical writing. In our history class, yes, they're learning ancient civilizations and they're learning US history and world history and current events, but they're learning it through the lens of cryptology and the lens of engineering. So I might be studying about Rome, but the way I'm learning about Rome is how did engineering make everything that we know about Rome happen? How did cryptology or cyber make all of those things happen? And so it's really fascinating. And the other wonderful thing that the school is able to do, because it can act as an independent school and doesn't have to follow the same guidelines or courses as other public schools, is that we're able to take these kids and put them in that internship their fourth year. You know, they're able to get that type of hands-on learning. So it's been really fascinating, really interesting. And I've just been in awe of watching the staff and faculty and Matt ensure that these kids are being taught relevant curriculum that's really going to make an impact, not just in Huntsville, not just in our state, but throughout our country.
Absolutely. I'm excited for our students and for Huntsville and Alabama. You know, having a school, a cyber school, and with the knowledge of, you know, what's going on across the world with people attacking our network and our businesses through the internet, what does the school do in order to protect itself from these cyber attacks? I mean, I would imagine that, you know, it's something that the kids talk about on a regular basis.
Yes,
hey, did you see,
is.
Instead of, you know, hey, did you see the score on the Alabama-Auburn game? Maybe it's more like, did you see so-and-so got hacked this weekend or something like that?
Absolutely.
So
They do.
how do they look at that and how do they handle the attacks that are occurring?
Well, we have the added benefit of being able to have people who have worked with an industry actually teach for us. So our cybersecurity SME comes straight out of industry. Our engineering SME comes straight out of industry. So while President Massey was very intentional about hiring teachers for things like English or history, he was also very adamant about hiring subject matter experts in cyber and engineering. With that, as you can imagine, when you have the word cyber in your name, you're going to get some touch points. There's going to be some people who are going to try to test you, and we've certainly had those, but we have been lucky enough to be able to thwart whatever anyone was trying to do. And we've really kind of put ourselves in a position, you know, knock on wood, we realize that this is going to happen over and over again, but so far so good. Some of the things that our students have to do, because believe it or not, insider threats a real deal, even with kids, is these kids are phenomenally brilliant. They are at the school for a reason, and they know about cyber. And so one of the first things that they had to do when they came in on their first day was they had to sign basically a good conduct, almost a contract, basically that they would not intentionally try to do these things. And thank goodness for us, we've got 70 kids that finished the school year last year, and they remained outstanding citizens of the ASCTE, and we've got another 80 something coming in this year. So they too, I believe, will be outstanding citizens of the ASCTE, so that we don't have to worry about insider threat. But yeah, we've definitely had a few touch points there, and we've managed to block those and then be able to report on them.
Outstanding. That's good news. And I will tell you, any lessons you can share with the community over time, I think would be valuable through Cyber Huntsville, Energy Huntsville. We would definitely like to share that information as time goes on. So
absolutely, we sure will. And I know that Matt would love to share those, whether in a big forum at a meeting or with leadership. This has definitely been an exceptional learning curve for all of us, considering it's the first of its kind. But we've had some phenomenal people along the way ensure that we were doing it the right way. So it's been great.
Awesome. Knowing what you know now, both with the COVID and the steps taken, and hindsight being 2020, would you have done anything different to prepare for the COVID-19 for now, and also for the next, whatever you want to call it, that's sitting out there that we may have to hunker down in place? How would you handle another event like this?
I have to say, I'm not too sure that there were definitely lessons learned in terms of getting the school kind of up and running. We really do think of the school as a startup. It was the first of its kind. Not only was it the first of its kind, we were starting from ground zero in terms of no building, no students, no staff and faculty. It was literally in the beginning, myself, Matt Massey, and both of our admins, who are incredible people, Priscilla Krause and Laura McNeil. And it was the four of us in a room at El Sync. The president of the foundation is Alicia Ryan. The president of the board is Senator Orr. And you're really talking about, we really kind of, whiteboarded everything. And I got to say that probably if we could go back and change one thing, is at least this time we know what's coming. We had no clue when we started doing this that COVID was coming, and then all of a sudden, are we going to be able to have classes? And it can definitely mess a little bit with your vision and your excitement about what you're about to do. And so even though Matt Massey and his staff and faculty, they pulled this year off literally without a hitch. And it is impressive as all get out. And they will tell you again and again and again that none of us were really sure last July, if we're talking a year ago, if we were really going to be able to pull this off. And we did. This time we know what to expect. And so we can put some processes into place long before. And so that's exactly what we've done. We're looking forward to another phenomenal school year. We're looking forward to another phenomenal school year of in-class, in-person, with half of our students boarding with us. And we'll continue to take the precautions that we did this past year in order to make sure that everybody's safe, including the families that send their kids to us, because our kids do go home at least once a month. So yeah, we're excited.
So how long before the building is going to be open? And can you talk about that and
Sure.
any needs you need for that?
I sure can. So right now we have an interim campus on the Oakwood University campus. That was where our first year was. We will do our second year on the Oakwood campus. This time next year, so in 1 year, we will be moving into that permanent campus in Cummings Research Park. And it has been, I cannot thank Huntsville. I cannot thank the state of Alabama enough. Everyone has truly been amazing. Our large companies, large DoD contracting companies have been phenomenal. And our small businesses, it amazes me still the number of small businesses that have donated in order to make this capital campaign successful. And then also just your commercial companies throughout the state of Alabama. They have really come on board, and I'm talking about as far as Mobile. So people are understanding that, yes, this is a school that is in Huntsville, but is a state school. 50% of our kids come from school districts outside of the Huntsville area, and then 50% commute, and they're from the Huntsville area being a 30-mile radius. So we're excited, and we can't thank Huntsville and Alabama enough for what they've done to support it.
Outstanding. That's really good news. So we're coming to the end of our interview, PeggyLee. Is there anything that you want to leave off with and share with the city of Huntsville or the state of Alabama?
Absolutely. So our students, when they graduate each year, will have a graduating class of between 70 and 80. And when these kids leave ASCTE, they're either going to go to college or they're going to go straight into the workforce, or they're going to do both. And so many of these students are going to be working directly for DoD companies. They will be supporting the warfighter. The other half of these students are going to go into the civilian sector, and they're going to do phenomenal things within that civilian sector to support those companies and to support the population within the United States. So I say all that background in order to say that our students truly are going to make an impact on our country, and not just Huntsville and Alabama. They're going to make an impact on this entire nation. And so I am so grateful to anyone and everyone who's interested in hearing about the school, who wants to come by the school and share some knowledge, or if you're interested in being a partner in education and help us complete this phenomenal campus, feel free to reach out. This is truly a passion project for me, as well as for our boards. And so those of you who are interested in helping us out, please let us know.
Outstanding. PeggyLee, again, thank you for taking time today and sharing with us lessons learned, and also about the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering. I'm excited for you. I have 5 little ones. I'm hoping one of them may want to go into that field.
That's outstanding.
So we'll see how that works. But again, thank you. And on behalf of Cedric Davis and Energy Huntsville, again, thank you and have a great day.
I appreciate you, sir.